Miles to Go Chicago Style. We're exploring some of the different cities along the way on Route 66. And today, our first stop, we're in Chicago, Illinois, and we're gonna make some deep dish pizza, my husband's absolute favorite meal. So what I've done is I've prepared all the ingredients that we have here today in order to make the pizza. So I just wanna show you a couple of things. I have some basil. Now it was looking much healthier a few minutes ago, but this is some basil and I've chopped it up because we're gonna need some fresh chopped basil to top off our pizza. I have Parmesan cheese. I have 2 pounds of mozzarella cheese. Now we're using mozzarella cheese and we're using 2 pounds of it today because we're going to make 2 different Chicago style pizzas. I have diced tomatoes, which I've drained, but the diced tomatoes are nice chunky tomatoes, and that's how they're typically done in Chicago. Not a tomato sauce like we're used to here in New York, but chunky tomatoes. I also have some crushed up garlic, and truth be told, I bought the pizza dough. Now, the recipe that I have calls for you to make the dough, but that's a whole nother episode of Miles to Go and has to do with yeast and living organisms. We didn't have time to do that today. So I actually, from my local grocery store, bought 2 pounds of pizza dough. 1 for each of these cast iron skillets. Now, I do enjoy using cast iron, and the more I use it, the more I find different things to use cast iron for. But for today, we're gonna make pizza in it. And the reason it's so great to make pizza is for a couple different reasons. 1, it holds the heat fabulously. When you take this out, it continues to heat up and it continues to keep the crust nice and crispy, which is really what we want for Chicago deep dish pizza. And I also like it because it can hold up to the weight of all the ingredients we're gonna put in. We're gonna put a pound of mozzarella cheese, a pound of dough, a can of diced tomatoes, and sausage. So I have 2 different types of sausage here, and I've cooked them. So I have sweet Italian sausage. Right here, it's all cooked up till it's brown and there's no pink showing. And I also have spicy sausage, because who doesn't like to spice up their pizza? So, in order to get ready, I've also have some olive oil here with a basting brush. This is a pastry brush or a basting brush. You can call it whatever you like, but this is a silicone brush, and I like silicone because it's good in temperatures up to about 450 degrees. So I'm gonna take my 2 cast iron skillets and I'm gonna grease them up nice and good. And I wanna make sure I get the sides of the skillet too. Now, the olive oil is my choice. I prefer olive oil because I like that nice flavor that olive oil gives. If you don't have olive oil, you could use a good vegetable oil. But I do like olive oil, and it's heart healthy because it comes from an olive, right? So we want those vegetables that are plant-based, not animal-based, because we have enough fat happening with our sausage here. All right. So I do feel like our pans are all greased up and ready to go. Just make sure we didn't miss anything there. Yeah, and I always say, cast iron has so many different uses. In the winter when it's too cold to grill outside, like the grill won't get to temperature, I do steaks in here. I do frittatas in my cast iron skillets. I do roast beef in it. It's fabulous. You take it out, you make a beautiful gravy right in it. And in case of an intruder, nobody's getting out alive, folks, that's for sure. So I'm gonna take my pizza dough now and I'm going to prepare it inside the skillet. So I'm preparing my pizza dough to go inside of the pan. Pan's already greased. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this pizza dough and just stretch it and spread it. And then I'm gonna use the mozzarella cheese to kind of hold it in place. Because as you can see, it's very elastic, meaning it's springing back and forth, which is good. That means that our dough is ready to be used. It means the yeast is activated. It means that the dough has risen and we're ready to use it. Now, if you decide to make the dough from scratch, you can just let it rise right in this pan actually. And it's a nice idea if you're making the dough from scratch to put it right in the oven, turn the oven off, maybe turn it up to 200 degrees, turn the oven off, and then let the dough rise right in this pan. So that's one option, or you can buy it at your local grocer. All right, so now what I'm gonna gonna do is take the mozzarella cheese, which I've already sliced, and I'm gonna kind of press it up along the sides, and it helps to hold it. It gives it like weight, if you will, to hold it up the sides. And nobody's gonna see this cheese, so it doesn't have to be perfect, which is a good thing. Now I use whole milk mozzarella cheese. I prefer whole milk. I like the taste of it. I'm not really a fan of low-fat cheese. This is not really a low-fat recipe, so you might as well enjoy it. Okay. And you can see it's just kind of climbing up the sides. And then once you bake this in the oven, it's gonna naturally climb up the sides. So you're just kind of giving it the avenue in which to explore. All right. So speaking of exploring, I think one great thing to do if I ever wanted to explore the US, which I've never been to Chicago. I've been to Chicago to the airport. I ran across the airport and got onto another plane, but I've never actually visited Chicago. But what I would love to do one time is I would love to do a pizza tour of all the different states in New York. Go from state to state and eat their pizza in every state, because New York style pizza is very different than Chicago style pizza, as you can see. If we were making a New York style pizza right now, one, we wouldn't be using a cast iron skillet, and two, we certainly wouldn't use our mozzarella cheese like this. It would either be shredded or sliced very, very fine. Every state kind of has its own version of pizza. I mean, we're super lucky because we live in New York, so New York pizza is superb, right? We live in the pizza mecca, if you will. But even if you were to travel just a little bit south to New Jersey, the pizza in New Jersey is very different than New York pizza. Slices are bigger, they're huge, and they're meant to be folded in half. This Chicago deep dish pizza is not meant to be folded in half. This pizza is actually meant to be eaten with a knife and a fork. It's more like a casserole, if you will. I believe it was Anthony Bourdain who called it a casserole. All right, so I've almost secured my cheese, and you see how it naturally kind of climbs up the sides. It just needed a little bit of help to get it up there. So in this pizza, I'm gonna make it with the plain sausage. We're gonna do one plain and the other one hot sausage. Now you can really add anything to the pizza. We saw caramelized onions. You can really add anything, but I think that the sausage goes really well, either hot or plain. And I'm just gonna put the cooked sausage, again, don't forget to cook it, around the sides, like that. And then, nice and nice. And then I've got some sliced up garlic all ready to go. I don't know, I feel like you have to have garlic when you have pizza. How could you not? Now, New York style pizza, the pizza is by nature meant to hold anything you would throw on top of it, right? Peppers, onions, pepperoni, spinach and bacon, which happens to be my favorite. But I don't know, the deep dish pizza just, I don't know. I feel like sausage goes really well with it. So we've got our garlic. We're gonna save the rest of it for this pizza over here. And now next, I'm gonna put a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Just a little. I don't think you can ever have too much Parmesan. And then I'm gonna take my drained tomatoes. Now I already drained them in a strainer in the sink, but you can still see there's some juice. So I've used a slotted spoon, and what I wanna do is I wanna get it as dry as possible. Okay. Oops, there we go. I don't know that I'm gonna use all these tomatoes. I am gonna make sure that there's a nice layer over here. You can hear they've still got a little bit of water to them. This is looking good, guys. Yeah, I think it would be super fun to travel the country and eat pizza in every different state. You know, some people travel from state to state and go to different stadiums, or they go to different opera houses, or they go to different train stations, right? To see what the architecture looks like. I want to go from state to state and eat pizza. I think might be a dream of mine. Okay. Here we go. Perfect. So we've got that all set just like that. It's looking mighty fine. And then I'm gonna sprinkle just a little basil, and I might put a little bit more basil when it comes out of the oven because we don't want the basil to burn. You could even put it under the tomatoes if you wanted to. I like how it looks like that. It reminds me of the Italian flag. All right. So this pizza is all set to go into the oven, and I'm gonna prepare my next pizza. So I've got both of my pizzas ready to go into the oven. Now I've got the one with the hot Italian sausage and the one with the plain Italian sausage. Both are gonna be delicious, fingers crossed, I hope so. So what we're gonna do is my oven's already preheating, and this starts off at 500 degrees, which is very close to broil, so you do wanna watch these carefully. So we're gonna start out, we're gonna put them in the oven, 500 degrees for, let's see, 15 minutes. And then we lower the oven down to 400 degrees, and it takes between 25 and 35 minutes, depending on your oven, and also depending what pan you're using. If you're using just a plain deep dish pan, it might not take as long, or it might take a little longer. These cast irons, again, they really hold in the heat, so I find that 25 minutes after the 500 degrees is more than enough. But we're gonna wait for these guys to come out of the oven, and you're gonna see how beautiful these are. You're gonna actually be able to picture that Al Capone was sitting down at the table with us, eating some pizza, Chicago deep dish style, with a little extra olive oil and a little extra Parmesan cheese, because he was a gangster after all. All right, so our deep dish pizza has come out of the oven. I just simply loosened it around the edges. And because we had all that olive oil on it, it's gonna slide out nice and neat. And I'm just gonna put it on the pizza paddle and then slice it up. And it'll be ready to eat with a knife and a fork. Both of them are ready. Look at that nice golden crust. And we are good to have some good old dinner. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Miles to Go Route 66, Chicago, Illinois.